Final update. My brother cancelled my birthday party because he asked my parents to go fishing himself that weekend, but when they came back, they were probably crying because of something someone said to me. Part 3. But honestly, it would have been very unlikely that he would have gained custody of me because it wasn't like my dad was actively mistreating me or depriving me of anything. He said he would have found a way to help me and that I should have told him sooner. Anyway, I hadn't told him before, and that's how things were. I had to endure the situation for a long time. But this was the straw that broke the camel's back, and fortunately, my grandfather was here to finally get me out of it. So, the next day when my dad and brother finally returned home in the morning, they were in for a big surprise. My grandfather usually treats both my brother and me equally since he's not my dad, but this time, he didn't even bother to greet my brother. He didn't waste any time before confronting my father about what had happened and what he had heard from me. For the first time in his life, my father actually seemed ashamed of himself and appeared nervous. I knew for sure that he had always wanted to impress my grandfather, even when we visited him after my mother had passed away. He made a big show of treating my brother and me well, but I had no idea he was so afraid of my grandfather. I liked the fact that, for the first time, he had to answer to someone for how he had treated me. Anyway, after scolding my father for a few minutes, my grandfather told my brother and me to go for a walk because he needed to discuss some things with my dad in private. He didn't want either of us to return home until he called us back. It was confusing, but it was clear that we weren't supposed to talk about it at that moment. So, we both left the house. My brother and I aren't exactly friends, so we went our separate ways. He spent about 45 minutes at a friend's house, and I went to one of mine. When my grandfather finally called us back, he seemed to be in a very bad mood and was very angry. When I walked in, it was obvious that my dad had been crying because his eyes were swollen. That was shocking because my dad rarely cries, and I knew something had definitely happened. Anyway, my grandfather told me to pack my things, only the important ones, and that the rest would be picked up later. So, I did what he asked, and about half an hour later, I had a bag ready. Then, we took a taxi and went to the nearest hotel. There, my grandfather told me that from now on, I would be living with him. It was very convenient because, as he had said, it meant I would be closer to my university as well. So, I had no problem with that. But when I asked him what had happened with my dad, he said it was none of my business at the time and that he just wanted me to focus on my future. As I left, I noticed that my dad hadn't said anything to me, not even a goodbye. My brother didn't seem to care either. And that was it. 2 days after I moved out with my belongings, my grandfather and I took a flight to his house, and I've been living here ever since. I didn't think I would hear from my dad or brother anytime soon and had stopped wondering what had happened between my grandfather and my dad because, clearly, my dad was happy enough to let me go. But that changed 2 days ago when I received a message from my dad, apologizing for everything and saying that he hadn't realized I had felt neglected. He acknowledged that he had failed as a father and that he hadn't even noticed because he was so busy with my brother, the only child with whom he had managed to connect. He said that he had always considered me very different from him, and that was why he had kept his distance from me because he didn't think he could understand me. But with my brother, it was different. He added that not building a good relationship with me was the biggest mistake of his life. He realized that, thanks to my grandfather. I already knew all that, so I wasn't surprised, and honestly, I wasn't even bothered by the fact that he was closer to my brother than to me, since I was closer to my mom than to him. What I didn't like was the fact that he had mistreated me and didn't even realize he had treated me poorly. But I guess he realized that after I moved out. He said he really wanted to apologize and make things right. He told me he knew I had moved in with my grandfather now and planned to stay with him until I finished university, but he would really like me to come back home so we could talk and work this out. He said that's what my mother would have wanted, and I think I agree. That's probably what my mother would have wanted because when she was here, she was always pushing my dad and me to spend more time together, but we never listened to her. However, I don't want to commit to anything right now, so I haven't responded to my dad's message. To be honest, I'm not even sure if I want to repair my relationship with them right now or not. I haven't started university yet, but it's only a couple of weeks away. When I do start, I only plan to go back to my grandfather's house on alternate weekends, so that would be more convenient than returning home. Besides, it's not just about convenience, it's also about the relationship I have with my grandfather. I don't have that with my dad or my brother, so I don't feel obligated to go back home and try to fix things. But on the other hand, if he's trying, shouldn't I also try? I've been having a lot of mixed feelings about what my dad said, and I don't know what to do about this situation. Would I be the bad guy if I told my dad that I don't want to move back in with him and that I want to stay with my grandfather? Honestly, I don't know why my dad would want me to stay at home. Whenever he and my brother went on fishing trips, he used to tell me it was dangerous to leave the house completely empty. Even when we took family trips when my mom was alive, he would hire someone to watch the house. As for whether or not I'm my dad's biological child, I don't know how to answer that. I've heard of people treating their adoptive children poorly compared to their biological children, so I wouldn't be surprised if I wasn't actually his child. But no one has said anything to suggest that I'm not, and I don't have any paternity test to prove it. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm definitely his child. If you ask me, I don't even think it matters whether I'm his biological child or not because he was the one who raised me along with my mother. Biological or not, I'm his child in some way, and he should have respected that and treated me the same as my brother. Anyway, that's not the point now.